ComicsGate, one of the worst tragedies to affect our society since 9/11. A group made of obviously alt-right, Nazi white supremacists spend their time harassing, bullying, gatekeeping, and worst of all, calling people mean names. They oppose mainstream comics as well as anything considered progressive.
Well, the babies are all extremely PC, the likes of which I've never seen. Watch this.
3 black guys walk into a bar. It's okay, they left.
But fear not, cause in our time, there are modern humans who oppose these vile creatures. Our gladiators, our idols, our protectors, social justice warriors, defend the innocent normal people, unless they happen to disagree with their beliefs, in which case, fuck them. This battle has been raging for nearly a decade with no end in sight. Who will win in the battle for culture?
ComicsGate is a hot potato when it comes to simply bringing it up. The definition and origin and intentions of those involved seem to vary all the time. Some people claim it is a hate group, some claim it is a gathering for racist, sexist, and white supremacy, some claim it is a place for strictly far-right Republican comics, and others claim it is a community of people that want to make comics for everyone, leaving politics at the door. As someone who is brand new to the comic world, I expected it to mostly be full of normal and or really nerdy people who like cool art and cool stories, and at the very worst, might have arguments about who can lift Thor's hammer and who would win in a fight between Superman and the Hulk. But apparently, the comic world has a lot of drama, backstabbings, betrayals, butthole pictures, lawsuits, accusations, yelling, cursing, arguing, death threats, harassments, lies, and a holy motherfucker of God, what the hell? Holy smokes, what in the hell happened? I watch Comic Artist Pro Secrets and his ComicsGate show quite often, and he does tell of the origin sometimes, but there doesn't seem to be like an official date or official person that started ComicsGate. I'll give you a quick summary of ComicsGate's origin as best I can with what I've learned. A few years back, the comic industry seemed to be pushing more left-wing politics into comics, as well as race and gender-swapping traditional characters. Some fans and creators didn't like that direction, so they left and started making comics on their own. Some people thought that this was a racist group of hateful people because a lot of them were Trump supporters and didn't like the race and gender swapping. They called them ComicsGate. I think because Watergate was a scandal and Gamergate was right before this, and I don't know. It's not very clever of an insult if you ask me. But comic creators in ComicsGate like Ethan Van Sciver, Diversity in Comics, Mike Miller, and others turned the labeled meaning of ComicsGate being a hate group right on its head. Nowadays, based on what I've seen from these ComicsGaters, ComicsGate is a community of people that create their own comics with crowdfunding and promoting their own products on social media. They left the main industry and are doing their own thing, yet people seem very determined to shut them down. I could use a large number of people as examples, but the most recent and widely known case is with Mark Waid, interfering with Richard C. Meyer selling his comic. Wade is 100% convinced that ComicsGate is nothing but an evil hate group that says naughty words and attacks women and people of color and LGBT people on a daily basis. So he thinks he's like Jesus or David or fucking Spartacus or some shit, trying to prevent these independent creators from selling their comic books. Or maybe he's just some dude with a loud mouth on Twitter. And alright, look, you can see what Wade says on Twitter, or any ComicsGate YouTuber shows his tweets and talks about the situation. I'm not an expert on that. I don't want to just repeat what has been said 100 times. Let's just pretend for a moment that a person in ComicsGate wants to create a pro-Nazi comic book. Now, I would not condone that, and I don't think that's a good idea, but I also think that if someone made it, they should have the right to try to sell it. A problem that people seem to have is that if someone buys that book, then they must be a racist and a Nazi. Or that if you read it, you somehow become one. But I think that's kinda silly. If you read a history book of World War II, does that mean that you are a war-hungry savage or want to kill everyone? If I watch or read a horror story where a killer just goes around killing people all the time, does that make me a killer? No. And if we look at things today, things get satired and made fun of all the time. So if someone bought that Nazi book, so what? Purchasing it to see what is in it, is it glorified? Is it honest, funny, silly, boring, graphic, brutal, truthful? It's not a bad thing. For example, the Holocaust is a bad thing. Reading a book isn't a bad thing. The whole point I'm trying to make here is you should be allowed to have the option to sell it, but also consider just because the book exists and someone wants to sell it does not mean you have to buy it. It might only sell 3 copies. It's not up to you to decide what other people want to spend their money on, even if it's a dumb, stupid Nazi comic. I'm so sorry if that was a tough section to go through. My whole point isn't for Nazism or anything, of course, though I know that some people would tend to construe it to be that way. I'm just saying that you can make something, you can sell something, you can read something. That doesn't make you a horrible person. But to clarify, I only used a fake Nazi book for an example because people tend to call people Nazis a lot these days when they are definitely not. Oh, I know of a better example. Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Many people hated it, some wished it would be removed from memory, and others have severed ties with Star Wars, but no one is trying to make it so that people that like it or are curious to see it can't. That message goes straight to people like you, Mark Waid. Take a hint. By fucking with diversity in comics and trying to block it from being distributed, you are not only hurting him, but also people that might like his comic. You have no right to prevent people from getting it. Anyway, back to ComicsGate. I personally love how they have taken matters into their own hands and created their own work and built up entertaining YouTube channels. Sometimes the exact info can be cloudy when people state things as facts when in fact they aren't, so if I am incorrect with anything I just said, please point it out. It is difficult to find evidence of the facts through the murky waters. So, I follow EVS on YouTube and watch his ComicsGate live streams. He brings on a bunch of other independent comic creators, and they all seem nice enough to me. They stream all the time and chit-chat and draw their comic books, so if they are somehow acting, that would be pretty darn good on their part, honestly. I don't agree with all of their views, like Mike is very Christian, and Doug doesn't even wash his hands, and most of them even like pineapple on a pizza, which is a disgrace, but that doesn't matter. They're just good people trying to sell good products on their own, so I don't get why people think they're a hate group. These guys have helped inspire people to take action and pursue their dreams, even if it isn't with comics. I love film, and listening to how Ethan has become his own boss is part of why I decided to go ahead and pick up a camera to start pursuing film. Ethan sometimes promotes smaller comic creators on his YouTube channel, but he doesn't have to. Some people call him a gatekeeper, but he has no power to stop any individual from making money or selling a comic. When you become the hot spot to be, everyone wants a piece of your success and your name attached to theirs, so he has the right to be as selective as he wants. And for the record, he used to just point his camera at an iPad and respond to news articles, and now he has a YouTube talk show with other creators. If he wants, he could just end the talk show and stop promoting people's comics, and then who will people blame when their own comic book doesn't sell? So, I have trouble understanding why people on Twitter act like this is such a horrible crisis. Looking up info on the history of ComicsGate, it's just a bunch of articles with people saying that ComicsGate is bad, and they only address when harassment is thrown in one direction, but completely ignore when it is being thrown in reverse. And if you don't believe that happens, don't you remember when Robbie Rodriguez sent a picture of his asshole on Twitter to EVS? Like, what the fuck? But I have yet to see ComicsGate actually cause anyone any damage. They are not even hurting DC or Marvel. If those guys make products people will buy, and if ComicsGate make products people want, why is there a problem? Alrighty, I think I've covered enough for one video. I'm so sorry that I got quite political here. I don't like to really cover politics on my channel, but I feel like I kind of had to dive into that a little bit when talking about ComicsGate because it seems to be what everyone else keeps on bitching about, so I had to bring it up. And like I said before, looking up info on ComicsGate can be murky, and a lot of references came from YouTube streams, but if I said any incorrect info, please let me know. I'm okay with having conversations, even if you consider yourself someone like an SJW. Let's hope that the comic book world will be fun again, and have a good one, guys. Did you guys like the video? If you did, like, share, subscribe, notify, comment, all that crap. If you hated it, then don't like, share, notify, unsubscribe, or comment. Wait, this is YouTube. Ah, fuck. But before you go, check out the Cinema Squad every other Sunday, where Black Angus reviews, Geoff the Iron Wolf and I live stream and shoot the shit. Links to their channels are in the description below. Also, links to my social media are in the description below. Hit me up on Twitter if you want to be a part of the Rookie Corner podcast.